All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is April 25th, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I'm the lead instructor here in the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. This is the market trading day in review. Let's go take a peek inside, see what we got. All right. All right, for SPY, what do we have here? We got on the 10-minute chart coming into the close. Looks like we got ourselves a possible 10-minute uptrend. On the 2-hour chart, okay, let's close out all of this because we don't need any of that. On the 2-hour chart, we have a 2-hour uptrend. All right, my plan was to trade the hourly uptrend until it ends. All right, we have a 1-hour uptrend. Coming into the close, we have a 2-hour uptrend. On the 10-minute chart, we've got a 10-minute uptrend coming in at the last minute. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart. Daily candle, higher low, higher high, closing, okay, closing over a bullish trap. Right there, see the candlestick and the 3 EMA up over the white 8 EMA. So daily chart, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17, still in an uptrend. Okay, see there's the high, we made a higher high. So there's a daily uptrend. On the quad lines, we are up here at the midpoint. Price is closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP, closing over the midpoint, closing over the uptrend line, closing over the downtrend line. Price action is looking good. It's just neutral right through here. Let's take a look at the game plan. All right, on the game plan, what do we have? All right, we had price action up over 547.80 is a buy-in right there. Okay, that was the game plan this morning. Okay, so you got price action up over 547.60 was a breakout. Green erases red right there. All right, so we traded this 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. All right, and that's how I made 2K today. All right, right there, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. Then we had to pull back, and then we had another rally up there, but we didn't make a higher high. So we'll see where it winds up later today. All right, so there's SPY on the 5-minute chart. Well, actually on the 10-minute, you can see right here. Okay, here's the 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. Traded it right up into the 550.08 area. That was our resistance that we had tagged. Okay, so there's SPY on the 10-minute. There's the game plan. The pivot today was 544.15. We spent a couple of candles on top of it right here. Pivot held up fine. All right, above the pivot, I'm a bull. Below the pivot, I'm a bear. All right, what did we like to trade today? 7 DTE or 14 DTE Friday options, $2 to $5 out of the money. Okay, we like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, and we like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. Well, we didn't get any downtrends under VWAP. First part of the day, you can see right here, if we move this over, okay, nothing but chop and slop from the beginning of the day. You can see price goes up over the 8 EMA. Let's move this. Okay, you can see price goes up over VWAP, under VWAP, over VWAP, under VWAP, over VWAP, half back right here, and then a rip into the end of the noon hour right up here into the highs. So price right now trying to set off a new higher high. All right, we'll see if they can get that done. All right, so there's SPY. Let's take a look at what else we want to look at. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ, same deal. All right, price up over 467.70 was a breakout buy-in right there. That would be your green erases red. Okay. Pivot today for QQQ, 464.40. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Okay. Bearish, red erases green underneath 461.60. We didn't come close. We didn't even come close to the pivot today. We got hovering right over it right there. Found some support and then rallied higher. Okay, so price action up over 467.70 was a breakout to the upside right there. Had a little pullback, test the lows one more time, and then we ripped up there. All right, so there's QQQ. All right, on 10-minute chart right there. QQQ coming into the close, looking like we got a 10-minute uptrend coming into the close. On the 2-hour, all right, got the 2-hour uptrend right there. 2-hour uptrend coming into the close. Okay, we're still bullish until we're not. All right, the hourly uptrend is still working. All right, let's take a look at QQQ on the scratch. All right, QQQ on the daily chart. All right, we've got a higher low, higher high, closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP, closing over the bullish trap, closing over the hooking 17 EMA, closing over the midpoint right here. We are neutral. Okay, price action moves up, gives it up. That's neutral. Price action moves down, gives it up. That's neutral. All right, you move up, give it up, and more. That's bearish. We're no longer in the lower third. We're no longer in the upper third. So we're just in the neutral zone right through here. So there's QQQ on the daily chart. Let's take a look at SPY. Let's take a look at SPY on the weekly chart. Okay, SPY on the weekly chart. You can see right here, weekly chart. You can see we made lower lows. So we're in a weekly downtrend. Okay. We have to come all the way up here to negate that weekly downtrend. We'll see what happens, all right? So we're still in a weekly downtrend. We're in a 3-day downtrend. We haven't made any higher highs on the 3-day chart, okay? We haven't made any on the 2-day chart. We're still in a 2-day downtrend. But on the daily chart, you can see right here, we got a little high up over the 17. We made a higher high. That puts us in a daily uptrend. Let's take a look at IWM. All right, IWM still in a daily downtrend. All right, IWM price action for today looking like an inside day. Lower high, higher low, closing over the bullish trap over the 17 EMA. Underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. And price action still in the lower third. That's still bearish, IWM. Still in a downtrend, still in the lower third, still bearish. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow got inside day as well. Okay, lower high, higher low, closing over the bullish trap, closing under the downtrend line, under the midpoint, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line. Not in the lower third, so they're just neutral. Still in a downtrend. Still neutral. Still in a downtrend. There's Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at FNGA. FNGA, higher low, higher high. In an uptrend, because there's a high poking through the 17. They made a higher high. That puts them in an uptrend. Price action, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, and under the midpoint right here. Okay, so price action no longer in the lower third. That makes it neutral. All right, you go up, you give it up, that's neutral, same thing. You go down, you give it up, that's neutral. All right, so there's FNGA. Let's take a look at technicals, T2122. Well, we hung out inside of the buy zone all day again today, just like we did yesterday, drinking the bear's wine. Okay, just hanging out here, kind of sneaking into the overbought zone when the bears aren't looking. But the bulls had their way today, yesterday, and the day before, T2122. T2123, we are drifting higher. Okay, we've got consolidation over consolidation. That's a bullish event. We've got a bearish gap, a bullish gap up that didn't get filled. That's a bullish environment. We are up over the 200 SMA. That is a bullish environment. T2123 still looking like an extended bear flag. All right. And it looks like we are now up and vertical. No longer are we horizontal. I got to tell you, it looks like we were in a coma here. And then somebody woke us up. Not sure what happened. T2123. Not sure if those tariffs are off the table now, but something woke us up right here. We're now in a bullish environment. Not by much, all right? Okay, we're making some higher highs, but they're just micro higher highs. Okay, the time will tell. When we take out this high right here, okay, then I might be a believer, all right? And that's a really low bar, okay, to take out that high right there. Not seeing it yet, but we are waking up and walking around. Okay, so there's T2123. On the 3-bar chart, 3 more green candle bars. We got a changing of the guard. Okay, notice the green candle bar. This is the V bottom bounce. Then we had a change of the guard. Then we had the reds took over. And you can see price action has brought us down to here. And are we changing the guard again? Is green going to take over and rally us back up to that falling 200 SMA? All right, so there's price action for the 3-bar chart on T2123. Again, it still looks like a little mini bull flag with extended flag, all right, inside a big bear flag. All right, we'll see where we go. All right, that's T2123. FNGA, 3 more green, all green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. No martini lunch today. They gapped up, and looks like they filled gap, but they still managed to hang out over VWAP. That's a bullish event, all right? That's a bullish environment. Closing over this hooking 200 SMA, all right? Did we take out that high? Well, we took out this high. That was a nice work right there. We did manage to beat that high. Got another high right here. This is the relief rally high. Like to see us take out the relief rally high. This is the relief rally to the relief rally right here. Okay, they took out the relief rally to the relief rally high right there. So this is the relief rally. We'll see if we can get up over that. All right, there's FNGA. Got some bullish environment popping up here. Again, we've got consolidation over consolidation. And then we've got more consolidation over consolidation. Then we've got more consolidation over prior consolidation. So all of that is a bullish environment. We have a 1-hour uptrend and a 2-hour uptrend, by the way. I am going to stay with those uptrends until they're no longer uptrends. All right, on the SPY and the QQQ. All right, let's take a look at some sectors. Start off with SMH. All right. No, we'll start off with XLE. XLE got an inside day, higher low, lower high, closing over a bullish trap. All right, but still underneath the falling 17, still in the lower third, so it's bearish, still in a downtrend. Okay, XLE still in a downtrend, still in the lower third, that's bearish. Okay, closing underneath, you can see this is that 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Closing underneath, see the gold line, downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2. All right, XLE took out this low, took out this low, so it made lower lows. That's what put it in a downtrend. In order to negate the downtrend, they got to take out the high. All right, that's a tall order. We'll see if they can get it done. They are in a downtrend, but they are not moving down. All right, so we'll see what happens here. That's XLE. Let's take a look at USO. USO, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap, but under the falling 17. That's the red dots. Price action, still bearish, still in a downtrend. All right, we got to take out this high up here to negate the downtrend. All right, that high right up there. We'll see if we can get that done. There's USO on the daily chart. Not in the lower third, so just neutral. Okay, you move up, you give it up, that's neutral. Same thing, you move down, you give it up, that's neutral. All right, still in a downtrend and no longer in the lower third, just neutral. There's USO, that would be the U.S. oil fund. Let's take a look at UNG. UNG, not ING. All right, as opposed to AIG. All right, higher low, higher high, closing under a bearish trap, under the falling 17, under this UNG 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, price action still in the lower third, still in a downtrend. Okay, lower highs, lower lows, that's a downtrend. Still in the lower third. Okay, you can see the quad lines, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, 4. You're down here in the lower third of the quad lines, still under the uptrend line. Okay, that's bearish down there. In a downtrend, and way down south, they're in bearish territory. Let's take a look at GLD. All right, GLD, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17, up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. That's in an uptrend. Let's take a look at SLV. SLV, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17, the hooking 17, over the 12-year high anchored VWAP, as well as the 6-month high anchored VWAP. This is a double, 2-for-1 anchored VWAP right there. Up in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Still in a downtrend. Okay, because they took out this low and this low, so they got themselves in a downtrend. All right, and they got to take out this high to negate the downtrend and convert the uptrend. Good news is they're in a downtrend, but they're not moving down. Okay, they're definitely moving up. So there's SLVs. Take a look at SMH. All right, SMH, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap, over the falling 17, no longer in the lower third. Okay, that's bullish right there. Did they make a higher high? Yes, they did. High right there is 212.81. High right here is 213.29. They're in an uptrend now, and they're no longer in the lower third. So SMH, uptrend, no longer in the lower third. Still underneath the downtrend line, still underneath all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, just neutral in an uptrend. Okay, and moving up. We'll see how far they get with it. Let's take a look at Big Brother to the SMH. That's the technology sector. Okay, got a higher low and a higher high. That's an uptrend. All right, closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Right here at the midpoint, the half court, the midfield right here. All right, that's neutral. All right, under the uptrend line. Again, you go down, you give it up. That's neutral. So they're in an uptrend in neutral territory. Let's take a look at XLF. XLF is in an uptrend, making higher lows and higher highs. Price action is an inside day, closing over the trap, over the 17, all right, in neutral territory. Not in the upper third, not in the lower third. Just neutral through here. Still in an uptrend. Let's take a look at IYT. Call it a day. Inside day for IYT. Closing inside a bullish trap under the falling 17. Still in the lower third. That's bearish. Did they make a higher high? No, not yet. They got to take out that high. All right, so IYT still in a downtrend. Good news, they're not moving down. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, traders, that's it for me for today. Everybody have a beautiful weekend. I'll see you all on Monday at 8 o'clock, and we'll do it again. All right, how I made 2K on this 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. That was my trade for the day. 10-minute chart, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. Right there. Okay, all right, traders. Everybody have a beautiful evening. Thank you.